Welcome to the Monday Club with me, Neil Loughran, and this week I am joined by Cahair and Stefan Campbell. This podcast, as ever, sponsored by Find Insurance NI, your local commercial insurance broker. Guys, let's get straight into it. Well, normally we'd be sitting here picking over a draw or looking ahead to a draw, but there's nothing until Tuesday morning. This week, the draw for round 2A and 2B of the All-Ireland Championship. You a fan of this, Soupy? The kind of midweek draw, or I saw a lot of people over the weekend talking about whether it should be Sunday night, during the Sunday game, get a bit of a buzz going. What's your feelings?
Yeah, you can see both sides of it. Obviously, I think the guys in RTE during the Sunday game have enough on their plate and trying to dissect all the games over the weekend. So you're maybe asking them to commit even more time. It's obviously a bank holiday in the south too, so there's a few lay-ons there this morning. But look, it probably
feels like a very Irish reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The draw. Like, no, sure.
You'd wonder how much time it actually takes. But look, it would have been nice for us to come down the road in the studio this morning with fixtures lined up, a full list, because there's going to be some potential. There's going to be a couple of blockbusters coming out of the draw. There's going to be a couple of maybe contenders dropping out in the next 2 weeks of the championship, given the format. But look, I think it's been a success to date.
I was going to say, are you enjoying now that we're getting a real sense of what this format will bring? I
think we spoke about obviously the pros and the cons of it a few weeks back when we were last in, and when I was last in, and maybe how much of a disadvantage the provincial finalists had, given that the less time to prepare than the teams that maybe were sitting in the wings. But at least this time around, it's a level playing field. And look, teams are going to have maybe 10, 11 days or whatever prep. But I think it's fair. I think we all agree that that's the one tweak that they need to make for next year. Look, it was never going to be perfect, but I think we're getting there.
What do you reckon, Cahair? It's like, because it's...
I blame GAA Plus.
The draw. have they done a draw before? Yeah.
You mentioned Dublin. I think Kerry would want Dublin.
Of course,
Dublin are very vulnerable.
Anybody would want Dublin.
Very, very, very vulnerable, especially if it was in Killarney. I think Kerry would be happy enough for that draw, which is a strange thing to say. I think they'd much rather that than going to Roscommon or going to somewhere tight where the injury list, then you look at Dublin yesterday in the second half, and you don't think that's a Dublin team that's going to contribute a huge amount.
They did start very well though. They look so dangerous. It was almost like.
But even it felt like Louth made the same mistake again. Like Louth stood off them again a wee bit and allowed them to dictate the game, and then I heard Gavin Devlin saying afterwards, just came to half time, and it was just like we have to go. We can't do this again.
I had a good angle at it there yesterday, and they did press 5 and 6 high to go and press, but obviously we know what the caveat that is. It's getting exposed in behind. And look, the first play I was keeping an eye on to see was Devlin going to rip up the script, and they did go high early on, but then Scully was just able to
find the pocket,
sidestep, find the pocket, and then the house was down, and then we seen the power and the angles that the Dubs were able to come with, and it was very impressive. And then again, it was a wee bit similar, that Louth started quite slow with taking their pot shots. We spoke about their 28% efficiency in the semi-final, and it looked like it was going to be a similar maybe outcome, and maybe history was going to repeat itself. But obviously, I thought Noel Mooney was excellent in letting it go. There was a bite. There was a bite from the start, and it definitely lent itself to an unbelievable game of football. And look, it came down to a bit of a post in the end, but look, I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Goals were criminal though, weren't they?
Goals were criminal. And it's funny because obviously Comerford came out of the team. Sullivan went in yesterday, and I haven't looked much into him. Is he doing that for his club, or is he a natural goalkeeper? Because his footwork on the goals was very, very strange. For a goalkeeper, his feet were so wide apart as the shots were being taken that he couldn't propel himself to either side, and that's why he ended up standing almost static in the middle of the goal, getting beat by them, because he had nothing to push off. And it was like that. I don't know much about him, but it didn't look like somebody who'd been doing this for the last 10, 12 years.
We were saying in the Sunday game last night, why he didn't do the Stephen Cluxon thing of coming up with the knees, you know what I mean, and making sure that nobody was getting that.
He's a bit of that's a tricky one. He's a bit of a sitting duck on that one because it
just
comes from pretty close range, and
see how time will react, and
it's
there's no box out,
it's
there's
on
no
top of him,
communication,
and Maguire has to run on it to come and attack it, and you're the standing duck under it. Like it's definitely tougher, but
so speaks a man who's been under a few of those.
Far too many. Those are the horrible ones. But no,
look, obviously you're saying like Kerry would want this Dublin team, especially down Killarney, but like that game we could have been sitting here talking about how Dublin have improved if that ball maybe goes over the bar as opposed to hitting the post. And it looked to me like was it Davy Byrne who caught the ball on the ground and he tried to play it off the. I looked from my angle, looked like he was trying to play it off the knee. It just looked like an intercepted pass.
Yes, yeah.
But
small margins,
and look,
but even so, they'd been totally overrun for 10, 15, 20 minutes of the second half, and then they steadied a wee bit and they got themselves level and they actually got in front at one stage, but it was still so rocky for the position they'd been in at half time. If that's Armagh, or if that's Donegal, or that's Kerry, I think they put Louth away, and Dublin did the complete opposite. They conceded 2-5 in the first 6 minutes of the second half, and let Louth go from 6 down to 4 up. And I don't think that's a team that's, because I think the only teams that can beat the top 4 are probably themselves. It's going to need an Armagh to take Donegal out, or it's going to need a Donegal to take Kerry out, or I don't see anybody from outside of that group necessarily beating anybody. Well, I say maybe Galway, somebody could beat Galway, but so I don't see Dublin beating Kerry home or away. We're talking about that as if that's a draw, but
I know
if
that
was
actually
a draw,
just preordained that there as if it's going to happen now.
I have a feeling poor Monaghan are going to get away to Kerry or away to Dublin.
They're due a bit of luck.
They're due a wee bit, but they've just had some bum draws in recent years, and the way different All Ireland. So, they fell into that great Dublin team in All Ireland quarterfinals a couple of times just by virtue of draws, and could have potentially taken out anybody else in it, but happened to get that Dublin team. So
yeah,
it's a bad feeling for them.
All will be revealed tomorrow. But anyway, you're not a fan. You're not advocating ditching a few games out of the Sunday game on Sunday night, for the draw. Cahair, no.
I don't. There's probably not enough time on the Sunday night as it is for all the football they have to show and the talking that they need to do around it.
Sure, nobody can complain.
They had. Even I was cursing last night. I was sitting watching, and then the next thing was Galway and Clare under 20 hurling came on in the middle of it, and I was like, I'm away to bed. That's enough. And and it was like, because I was wrecked as it was. I was like, I was just hanging on in the moor, and that came on. I actually put it on my phone and put the earphones on and got into bed, and I think I saw about 10 seconds I was sleeping. So Tuesday morning's just a strange one. I think it does. I kind of like that it gives last weekend a wee chance to breathe, gives us a chance to talk about those games and have a wee bit of time to do that, and then start to look ahead, as opposed to, as I said to you earlier, if that draws Sunday night or Monday morning, we're probably coming here, and if it is Dublin Kerry, or if it is Kerry away to we've decided if it is Kerry away to Roscommon or whatever it is, we're probably coming here then talking about that and the games from the weekend,
as opposed to Mullingar,
as no chance to breathe. So from that perspective, it's probably not the worst thing.
Okay. Well, look, we are going to talk a bit more about Dublin, I guess, later on, and we'll have a bit of a chat about Westmeath as well, and Monaghan Mayo, of course. But we're going to start with Armagh and Derry on Saturday night. Stefan, you were there. Tell me, see, coming into that game, what was your feeling about it? Because so much was made about the provincial winners and how difficult they had found it coming into the All Ireland series. Like, was there? I guess that probably seems to have fed a lot of what Kieran McGeeney was probably talking about coming into the game. Were you nervous?
I think the closer the game got, it was, given the results that had occurred with the other finalists. I think the Derry squad, there's 15 or 16 players that they have. For me, on paper, are still a great side, a good side. So the closer the game got, I was a wee bit worried. Like I know Armagh, they were out, and rightly so, but they wouldn't have celebrated as hard as a Roscommon or a Westmeath. But it was going to take some toll. It has to. But what sort of percent would we be looking at? And like if we're looking into the game, look, I was confident that they were going to get the result, but I was asked for my prediction, and I called a 1 point win. Just the way that the evening was brewing, just Derry looked really strong, and then the teams came through, and Becker dropped out, which was a huge loss. Cassidy,
yeah.
Cassidy dropped out. Was there another one I'm missing?
That was two. No,
that was
now
the two.
Corner and Shea Downey, and yep.
Downey, yeah. So there was a bit of a rejig there, and the balance just wasn't the same. Derry probably started better. Obviously, Conor Glass kicked the first score, but just very wasteful. And from there, I thought Armagh were decent in patches, decent at best. It's like did they get out of third gear maybe 50 or 60%? People are saying they played well in snatches, but it was probably more of a collective than like it was Conor Turber top scorer with 4 points. Somebody used I think it might have been Colin Keys or somebody down the country used the golf analogy for David Clifford there last week, saying like he's 7 points on par at the minute, and I think maybe the likes of Conor Turbot and Conady, or maybe if they're not kicking 5 or 6, they're over par as such, and it just looked like a good collective performance without maybe the dramas that have came before, and I think Geezer would have been happy enough.
Yeah, Cahair, like it was as Stefan says, convincing, convincing win for Armagh really. Like from a Derry perspective, where do things sit, do you feel? Because obviously huge disappointment after the Monaghan game in Ulster. They had a while to stew and come into this. There would have been a big focus on Armagh, but it all feels quite not necessarily flat, but there's a lack of imagination, or there's a lack of there's something missing with Derry, I think, at the minute.
The energy that was there in the early part of the season, there was
too much put into that.
I don't know, up to and including the Cork game. Obviously we talked a lot about the Cork game and scoring 131 that day and blowing Cork away, and that felt like, right, so there's the potential that Derry have in some regards. So like I really did expect a big summer from them. I really, really did. And I thought going into the game, like I was standing at half time in the tea room in Armagh at the Ulster semi-final, making the people the case Derry are going to give Armagh a serious baller in the Ulster final here, because they were so comfortable in the way that they were eating Monaghan up for 45 minutes that you couldn't see anything but Derry winning that game. And they played really impressively, and the goals that they had scored, and they came out on Saturday evening, and against the wind, they chose to play against the wind first. They won the toss, and I just think they played football from the era gone past. Like they played football from before the rules changed. They haven't adapted. No, they played a game where they wanted to frustrate Armagh, and they wanted to keep the ball, and they wanted to stay in the contest, and they'd have been happy in one sense. Armagh scored 1-9 with the breeze, but I just don't think you can win games at that level only scoring 1-3 against it. And back in the tea room at half time again on Saturday night, I would have made that point to a few Derry men that were there. I was like, Armagh are going to score 9 points here in the second half. They scored 10 against the breeze because that is the way they play. They're always looking to score, go fast. They're always looking to score as quickly as they can. When they get the ball turned over, they're gone at the black spot. So they're going to score 9 points. So you're now chasing a 15-point game without a massive 2-point threat. Derry don't kick a huge amount of 2-pointers, and it felt like.
But they have to, like we've talked about this before. Like they have 2-point kickers. So why? What is it that they? They
do, but they're struggling to manufacture the right shots. They're just obviously Shane McGuigan's coming out around the arc, and teams are hyper focused on him, and he's obviously left-footed. the teams have been able to keep him away from, they're almost happy, and in that position they let him duck back inside. If he wants to take the right shoulder and go back and then kick a 1-pointer, that's nearly, that's and he's not getting inside for those a lot of the time either. But if that's the outcome, that's better than him kicking the 2-pointer. So they're staying very heavy on his left. But you saw the lack of willingness to just have a cut at it as well, the way other teams are, because like you went out, Mayo took loads and loads of 2-point shots in the first half yesterday, some of them from wide, but they racked up a big score. Like, it felt like, the points that the scores of Paul Cassidy and Ethan Doherty kicked towards the end were just out of pure, there's nothing left here. Nothing left here other than that goal, but it's like, why do you not have that goal 15 minutes earlier and make the other team push out further again?
I don't want to stick the boot in. Obviously I met a few of them after the game, and some of them look more distraught than others. But like Ethan Doherty had a chance to kick a ball over the bar from 25, 30 yards up the hill, and it wasn't a hard kick, and he has to kick it. He kicked 2 against Monaghan from 40, 45 metres. Now Loughran's first chance, it was a Red Sea, and he pulled it wide for gain 20, 21, 25 yards. This goes back to the Antrim game. Butchering chances, they're not clinical enough, they're not ruthless enough in front of goal.
And that day we kind of wrote it off. Like we said,
because they scored so much,
they scored so many, and it was Antrim, and they were going to win regardless. But maybe there's a lack of confidence or something that has come from that.
And then even because the majority of the group, they were around in 22, 23, they're an experienced group, and obviously the way they handled maybe the last 10 or 15 minutes of that Monaghan game was worrying. It looked like they got a kick in extra time, but they're just very wasteful. And Kieran McGeeney is a much smarter man than I am. I don't doubt that they're doing plenty of shooting practice, but are they really doing it under the intensity that's required? Look, I always call out Lachlan Murray because I rate him so highly. He was one of the better players on the evening, but still very wasteful. And the worst take that the Derry squad, management or supporters can take out of that game was 5 points to Armagh. Like, they're not, that group was too good to take a moral victory out of that performance. That game was over. Like, Derry scored 5 of the last 6 scores. They only got back into the game because Jason Duffy got a harsh black card. They outscored Armagh 4-1.
Was it harsh?
I think it was.
Are you saying that with Armagh hat on?
No, because we spoke about it. We spoke about it down in Killarney the week before. We done the time we wanted.
Yeah.
And if my memory serves me correct, we spoke about if the forward who's carrying the ball is running it to his teammate, if he doesn't change direction, it's up to the defender.
Did he not turn his body a wee bit? And what I'm saying, the point I would make on it is, I feel that defenders are going to start this. They're going to start getting cute to this, because what else can you do if you're a defender and you're being screened out of the game and you're feeling hard done by something that is borderline a foul? Do you start, like, if you're going to be blocked off anyway, why not exaggerate the contact? Why not? Because you're not
out of the play anyway.
You're out of the play, exactly. You might as well try and get the referee's attention, and I think that's where we're headed. I think you'll see a lot of defenders now exaggerate that contact and really and referees are going to have an awful hard time now deciding, well, because you're like, I see both sides of it. You could say it's black, you could say it's not black. I've watched it 10 times. I don't even know. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
I just think it's harsh because Jason, the only movement he makes is he sort of tightens his cord. He braces himself.
He sort of turned himself a wee bit.
But these players are coached to run the ball as tight as possible, to turn their body, to slip it.
Yeah.
And he's bracing for contact. No one else probably likely to come. Yeah. I don't think he initiates it whatsoever.
But look, I take that point. You're possibly right on that. But it's how much of this we're going to see, and what else can defenders do? Because of that, exactly what you're saying. They're doing that to take the defender out of the game, so that the defender can't get around them and make the follow man if teams aren't passing on then quickly enough. So it's just something that I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see referees are going to have a hard time with this screening stuff over the next wee while, because
more and more prevalent.
What else can defenders do? they're being screened out of the game, and what else can you do other than try and make the referee make a call for you?
After the match, Stefan, Kieran and McGeeney, Kieran McGeeney had a bit of a nip at each other slightly, you know, about sideline antics, I guess, you know, like Mina wasn't happy with, or maybe was questioning how, wasn't it
there was breaches, there was a couple of breaches, one or the other,
and some of the I suppose the noise coming from the Armagh side of things, and Kieran McGeeney said some people always want to point fingers or whatever, but I'm just wondering, in a general context, is there a history there with Armagh and Derry? Like we've spoken before on here about Armagh and Donegal and you know, the rivalry there. Is there any history there with Derry at all? Like, you've met so many times in the last number of years.
Look, obviously, there's probably a bit of envy there maybe 2 or 3 years ago, because Derry were coming off the back of, you know, 2 Ulster championships. But is there a hatred there? Absolutely not.
There's no trigger points or anything.
No trigger points. There's no. Look, I could pinpoint maybe moments with other counties down through the years where it's maybe triggered something, but I just think there was maybe 2 managers caught up in the heat of the moment. There's been nothing that I can recall. I think there's huge respect, especially from the Armagh side, towards Kieran McGeeney, what he's done, standing in to win that Ulster, and then look, the easy maybe route for him would have been to take the limelight and stay on, and he chose a different path, and he came back, and the players obviously rate him, and I rate him. I don't know him personally, but I like how he carries himself, and I just think it was just the heat of the moment. And look, I think when the dust settles, there'll be mutual respect there as before.
Cahair, what was the best goal of the weekend? Was it Tiernan Kelly's or Bobby McCaul's?
Did you see Cameron Dummigan's? Did you see my tweet? No, for Derry.
Check it out.
I didn't see
City.
No.
I did.
Yeah.
I did see that. Now
Don't
you
forget
say
about
that. I did see that. That was some hit on the side of the bar.
He's from Loughran there as well.
Yes, that was
Unbelievable.
that was
So
a
there's
tanker.
3.
That was
Take
some
a
hit.
between the 3.
Your pick from those 3 then?
2 out of Loughran. Which is the best goal? Jesus. I love the Bobby McCaul goal. I said to you yesterday, like, just bring Enda Muldoon in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway in 2001. That it's not quite on the half turn as such, but he sort of is Bobby McCaul. But he did. He is obviously very, very good at that. Was the same catch as against, and Shea McGuckin made a brilliant save from him against Derry with the same catch, and that positioning himself across the far post and timing that leap, and no defenders out jumping that. Like,
but what about his strength for such a young age?
He seemed to have caught 3 balls there, pinning boys.
That's right.
It was impressive. Look, you got to go on with the goal. Sorry, I was going to.
No, you're all right.
About the lack of efficiency there too.
Go on ahead.
Just like a sidetrack there. Just talking about. See, when teams are getting beat by this 5, 6, 7, 8 points, they think they need goals. And look, Armagh have got received so much flack for these fisted points. In hindsight, if McCall or McKeown
just
or any of these lads just pop 2 of them over the bar.
But is that hindsight? Is that, you know, at the time you were thinking, geez, there's a goal chance. If I pop that over the bar, it's only 7 down to 6.
But they will only learn. It reminded me so much of us by Cabin in 2019, and we took great lessons from that. Geezer was quick to remind us on every occasion, but it's almost, you get these goal chances and they come back to bite you season after season. At what point
do you stop it?
Do you stop it?
And that was a crazy 10 minutes there yesterday. And if given the opportunity, with the 2 points still in play, if they had clipped maybe 2 or 3 of them just over the bar for 1-pointers, that could have been a different result.
And go back to the other side, I mentioned the Sullivan for Dublin, but what about Jack Livingston and nets for Mayo yesterday?
Yeah,
7, I think it was. 7 saves he made.
Some of them were unbelievable.
Absolutely. And there's a natural goalkeeper. There's somebody who's
that was like
footwork.
Ronan Burns, wasn't it? Like just a shot stopper. Like
absolutely. Straight away you see there's a real natural goalkeeper, like his timing off the line, the shape of his body, everything about him. I was so impressed with him yesterday. I don't think Rob Henley will be getting back in anytime soon. And that's Henley coming back. I thought was a big thing for me at the start of the year, but obviously it malfunctioned against Roscommon, didn't work. and now Livingston's got his chance, and he's going to be very, very hard to push out again.
I'm going to digress back to the goals here.
He's going to make us make the call here.
The Tiernan Kelly goal, Stefan. Something you had worked on, which surprised me. Talk to me a bit about that, because it's such an unusual strike, and so much is made of the fact that it was obviously the advantage, and he was a shot to nothing, I guess, because he was going to have that opportunity, for a score anyway. But that kind of goal, was something you would have actually looked at in training.
So I didn't have enough characters. So obviously I didn't have enough characters on Twitter last night. But Tommy Rooney was just looking, put up a poll to see what the public thought. What was the best goal? A lot of people were going for the team element of the 2 kick passes, the fats, and the composed finish underneath the goalkeeper yesterday. So. And then I was just responding to it, like a lot of people were saying. I've heard it was a shot to nothing, it was luck, and I didn't have enough characters to explain to Tommy. Look, it wasn't like we would practice them in the middle of training. It was when you rock up, boys right early. The keepers have already done the warm up. There's a mannequin sitting maybe a metre inside both posts, but also one in round like the penalty spot at both angles. And before the coaches are obviously they haven't come out yet, but we're out. Supposed to be doing a prehab, or skill work, all that maybe 20 or 30 minutes before training actually starts. And honestly, we it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of crack, but I know when he hit that ball, he had just seen that picture so many times. That wasn't luck whatsoever, and it just took me back to me, Rain, Duffy, just Mackin, all these boys just on the right hand side, and then you would have seen the likes of Kane, TK, all these boys just replicating to try and get that trajectory, that dip. And it was I never clicked straight away. It wasn't until I got down the road that I was just like, do you want to know what, fair play to TK? You backed yourself there, albeit the hand was up. He says he didn't know. He says he just trusted that the referee had done his job, and he felt the tug. But what a strike. You'll not get a cleaner strike. And we said straight away that it was so reminiscent of Peter Hart's in the All-Ireland club. But what a strike. He will never...
celebration.
Do you really think he was messing us there? No, he's a good lad. I was I had to look up his age there. I knew he was, don't let the grey hair fool you there, he's still only 24. Like he's only been around. He's been around from, I think he made him call him when he was 17, 18.
And we're going to touch on something here, but he kind of typifies the difference in where Armagh and Derry are at, and why they're at different points, I think, as to where they're at, because there are so many players on that team like Tiernan Kelly who, like Kieran McGeeney, I look at the minute, like, who had to be so patient. Like Kieran McGeeney, you'll maybe know, he must have put on a stone and a half in the last 18 months or two. He is a totally different physical being. A totally different physical being in a good way than he was previously. But the patience, the level of patience, Soupy's
bloody looking down.
I know. Why do you have a jumper on? The level of patience displayed by a number of the fringe Armagh panel who were fringe for time and now are starting players, and it is something that Derry have just really, really struggled with, is finding players who are willing to commit to that patience for the 18 months where they might play no football. There are so many players who have come in, and not just under Kieran McGeeney, and it did happen again at the start of this year. There were new players brought in, really players with people in Derry had real hope for. Thought they've been brilliant in the club championship the last couple of years. They've gone by the middle of the league, and it's just how do Armagh? I think that has been one of the key strengths of that Armagh team, is getting players to buy in and accept that you might kick no ball here for 18 months, but if you commit yourself to it, we're going to get you into the position where when we put you in, you're going to be damn ready for it.
Yeah, and like Kane's scenario there, like he's the one player where he's a quiet lad, doesn't say too much, but because he knows that he was a good footballer, and he comes from Crossman Lane, the confidence is obviously there naturally. But he would have had a lot of tough conversations over 2 or 3 years. He wasn't accepting that he wasn't getting playing. I've been involved in meetings and conversations where, not that it was confrontational, it was he was constantly going back for feedback. Why am I not playing? And he was getting the harsh truth. And that's paying dividends now. Look,
and would have been the truth, you're too small, you're too late. You know, I'm looking at him and saying, well, that is what's really changed with him, because he had the pace, but he's just so much physically stronger and able to break tackles now that he's a real threat. Like he lined out second half at wing half back on Saturday evening, and he just played for, and that's the running game against the wind. Like he's ideal for it.
100%. But he's much more composed. He came into the squad as a out and out, just inside forward, pace to burn, and pace. You need a wee bit more than pace. With that, he had the patience he developed. He's a clean striker, but he's a great team player. He probably doesn't score enough for me, but then that's just how he's been moulded, and developed over the last couple of years. He's turned into a terrific player. But he was the one player going back a few months that he was the one for me to keep an eye on, just because I knew how harsh he is on himself, and he was asking the difficult questions. 18 months previous, and I'm glad he's got his chance, and he's haven't, probably like most Armagh players, had a quieter evening on Saturday, but it was business-like in the end, wasn't it?
And it was like I've been so impressed, but it's just where we're looking at, like 6 weeks ago, Ross McCall was one of the form footballers in the country, kicking 3 points a game from wing half back, and now he can't get back into the team. And Oisin O'Neill, and obviously that's, again, we've talked about the strategy of that, and that's where Armagh are, in that they have the luxury that they can afford that strategy, and Derry aren't in that luxury position where they're in order for them to do that, they are having to take a Loughran Murray out of their starting team and take a Gareth McKinless out of their starting team, which they don't have the luxury of. And it's just that repeated, and I'm not going to call it failure, because different managers have tried. Mickey Hart tried, Rory Gallagher tried, Paddy Talley tried. They all tried to bring players in and develop the squad, but the squad at the back end keeps changing. The 18 to 30 keeps on changing, and until that 18 to 30 finds a way to be there for a consistent period of time and maybe not play much football and hang about for 18 months and develop themselves physically, like that is really where Derry are stuck at. And the problem is that they're now heading towards a point where they have players coming closer to the end of their career, and is that development of that 18 to 30 just going to come too late for the core group then that won those Ulsters in 22 and 23? So it's not for a lack of trying to fix it, but there's just that bit of a culture there in Derry where the importance of the club, and so if you're involved in the county, you're not allowed to play for the club. You effectively don't play any league football. Though that has, like most counties, that has loosened a wee bit over the last couple of years. If you're not the 26, you'll play, but until Derry fix that element for themselves, and I don't know what this. I'm say all those men have tried. I don't know what the solution is. How you get a group of players who are not just committed enough but also good enough. You need them to be of the standard. You just can't take me in and say do 18 months training there and you'll play for Derry. You need them to be of the standard to play for Derry as well. How you get that group developed, because that's where Derry are going to close the gap.
Well, what's the secret in Armagh then, Stefan? Because I remember the first time we all met months and months ago, and sitting and we're sort of talking about just loosely about where Armagh were, and the guys who, like yourself, who'd gone off the panel and the lack of depth and so forth, and us kind of I can't even remember what the game was that had been the weekend before. It might have been Roscommon or something, but looking at the bench and saying, not ready, these guys, they maybe not ready. And here we're sitting now eulogising possibly possibly the strongest squad in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, why?
I think the strength comes within Geezer Geezer promises them that there's going to be so many moving parts during the course of a season. It might not happen in the league, might not happen in the preliminary round, but players are going to drop off. There's going to be drop in form. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be ample opportunities for everyone, not just in the 15. There's positions up for grabs, from outside maybe the 21, 22 to get into the packing order to get game time. But then there's also that sort of 30 to, I think they're carrying 43 or 44 at the minute.
Yeah.
So there's always something up for grabs, and that's just the way they play it, they manage it, and they try and keep the group strong. Like there's always something at stake here. And what we're seeing now, we're seeing people getting rewards through form. Like if probably we all thought at the start of the year, or when Ben definitely picked up the injury, Armagh would have struggled at midfield. Andrew Murnan came off injured against Roscommon.
But Jason Duffy's just come in there.
Seamless. And look, for me, he's up there with Connolly as probably one of the players of the season for Armagh. But if you go back through their team, like Gareth Murphy is a serious talent. He's coming in. He started the league cornerback. Paddy Burns, then he picked up a knock. Paddy Burns came back in. Paddy Burns dropped out. He came off at half time in the Ulster final. They don't have to think twice about putting Gareth back in. And then you go through the team. Obviously, Ross has dropped out. We've already given the example. He's been probably their most consistent player the last 12, 18 months. He can't get back in. But let's say Jason Duffy has had the season that he's had, and once Ross got himself fit again, it's a straight swap. Where does Jason Duffy go from there? His confidence. Geezer's obviously harping on to them about, he's telling them, if you play the form, you're staying in the team, and he's true to his word. Tomas McCormick's another one.
Brilliant.
Didn't start maybe the first, not sure how many games he played, maybe the last 2, 3 maybe, and then he only came to light because Oran Kiernan, realised that they've made a switch. They put him to half forward. He's the first line of defence, so he can go toe to toe with whatever attacking players are coming down his side. He's a good match for them. But what we're seeing from him is he now feels trusted. We're now seeing a different element to his game that he has in the locker. The pace, the power,
finishing.
He's 2 very good feet, but he's always had that. But he's just a different person now because of the confidence. He feels that confidence because he's being backed every night by McKeever. Gilligan's massive, obviously, in the transition. We know that, but and Geezer has been hard on him over the years too. But he's another guy like Cian. He would have been knocking on Kieran McKeever's door. How can I get better as a defender? How can I get into this team? Because he knew he had all the attributes. We've already spoke about them: the pace, that power, getting out of defence. But now it's just not that. He's knitted that all together, and now he's getting on the end. He's turned into some player,
and that feeds really back into what I'm saying about when you have that. You're talking there, and the word I'm nearly thinking of is honesty, in terms of the honesty of the message coming from the management that if you are in form, we will play you. If you're playing well, and if you're out of form, we will not play you. Doesn't matter who you are. And the Derry team, you could pick 10, 11, 12 of the Derry team every single week. It's the exact same. And I'm not saying rightly or wrongly, but I'm just saying that obviously doesn't exist, and that they don't obviously feel they have the depth to carry that off. You can't drop players of that standard for players who aren't ready. Armagh have got a big number of players to a certain standard, so they're carrying enough of a squad.
And there's no drop off.
There's no drop off. Exactly. Yeah. That's the challenge.
Does anybody else have when you look across the rest of the country? Who else?
Well, I think you've seen it in Kerry over the last. You've seen it, the fact that they have still gone on in one Munster, and I would love to have seen the second half of the Donegal game be 15 v 15, because I'm not as convinced as other people are that was going the way that it was. A lot of people seem to think that Donegal were going to come out of there. I don't.
I thought both teams were very impressive in that first half. I thought Kerry, albeit missed a few, they weren't at their clinical best, but that was a stiff breeze that the viewers might have felt. Obviously,
And 9 points against that was good kicking.
Absolutely.
The only really thing that was concerning was how easily Donegal maybe get in behind. But
they were going to be able to, they're so good at that compact defence, and against the
that was
breeze,
brewing in the classic. I felt, and again, I know the repeat parents and stuff, we mightn't see it later on the championship, but my feeling is that Kerry need to get those. They were missing 7 All-Stars.
Massive.
So there's another reason.
Yeah.
They need to get them back soon. I just feel like even if they do get to the quarter final here, and let's say they're only back maybe a week or two,
starting to run out.
I don't know if the players can miss that amount of football and get to the level of conditioning.
You look at Paul
First and
Clifford,
foremost, and
it feels like they're nearly rushing him back a wee tiny bit, because he's come off against Cork, he's come off against Donegal. It just feels like they're trying to test him, but it just might be a wee bit too early for him, and he's having to come off in games, and it's probably not then helping him for the following week or the following game, because he's further back again.
Because Paulie's so good, and he's obviously going to be tagged given what happened last year in All-Ireland final. When you're coming back from an injury and you're only at 60 or 70% and you're faced with Finbar Rory, that's not the place you want to be.
Good luck with that.
You know what I mean?
We'll turn our attention to Monaghan Mayo briefly here, and I suppose that we touched on the goal earlier on, and I suppose we can look
Still
at
haven't answered that question.
What's
your favourite goal?
Was that Cameron Domigan's? They say Brannigan earlier.
We'll turn it back and Neil. What's your favourite of the two goals?
Mine's McCall, definitely. I just loved it.
Just mine, you've ended up as well.
Well, that's kind of where I want to go with this point, actually, because you don't. Well, remember Louth scored a goal like that during the league, didn't they? Against, God, I can't even remember.
The kick against Cavan.
But it was maybe 3 passes.
3 kick passes, yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you see goals like that, you just go, and it was the catch, obviously made it, but you're just going, oh, that's so good. And you don't want to be Father Time here sitting going, back in my day, you know what I mean? And this is how football used to be.
Back when I was
also, that goal against Cavan, I would question the defending, and I would also question the defending there yesterday in Clonus. How could Beggan kick a ball 60, 70 yards to, was it young Mooney?
Stephen Mooney, yeah.
Stephen Mooney, and the defender dropped off instead of going pressure and not kick and see if he had
is that partly Mooney only makes that run because he knows Beggan's maybe the only man capable of actually playing that pass, and the defender's just not switched on to that.
Okay, he could have shoved him, he could have got the separation himself. I didn't see it from behind, but the two goals were quite similar. But it just give me TKs all day.
But it was a brilliant goal from an offensive point of view, and it is the thing that it still does surprise me a wee bit that. But obviously, there will be numbers there. There are numbers there that mitigate against kicking the ball. It's not statistically the smart thing to do a lot of the time, kick the ball, and that is why teams don't do it. It's safer to run it, safer to keep it through the hands and not give it away. But it just feels like, because of the way the game is, there is so much space in front of 3v3 and so much space in front of full forward lines, that I made the example after the game on Saturday night of that score that Connery turned Conor Glass over and kicked the ball to Andy Murnan against the breeze, and you're thinking, like, statistically and risk reward, like, that is not the right option in some ways, but look at how effective it is when you do it right. And it just, and again, we'll touch on you, Soupy, you'll know this better, but I look at inside forwards now, and the movement patterns are so different to what the traditional movement pattern of showing for a kick pass and waiting for somebody to look up and making you run off it. The inside men are not conditioned to make that run.
It's because they've been so, I feel it's because they've been so coached to go into the slower attacks that the most teams don't
have the option
to kick that initial ball. They don't want to, because maybe somebody behind has maybe just called, right, get into your spots, get into the cuts, and we slow it down. Just with Armagh, I feel this year especially, any turnover, they're looking to punish. And I think that's just a trigger. Conley got the turnover on such a key player, and his first thought was 4 steps, bang into Murnan, and Murnan didn't think twice either. How many times have we seen opposition players turn that down, come round the arc, everybody just gets in their spots, and then they're looking, then they'll try and set up their
and that's what Derry did.
the pop pass.
Derry did.
And then
But then if you go to Croke Park, I can't remember who kicked that 60-yard ball down the line over the top for Maguire's goal.
I suppose Creek Lennon, was it
Downey?
Was it?
Was it Downey?
Was it
I can
Downey?
see it in my mind's eye
Yeah,
over the top of the head, but I can't remember who kicked it.
And part of me feels like that goal may not have happened in the first half, but because they're chasing the game, it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And that was such a courageous pass to hit, because he was probably only 10 metres off the sideline.
Yeah.
He was kicking towards the line with his right foot off the instep. And I was just thinking at the time, you only ever see that in Croke Park, because that's probably a 60-yard pass. The Dublin defender was marking in front. If that's 55 yards, 58 yards is being cut out, and he just backed himself. And I think it's a mindset thing. I think some of the teams have their triggers that if they turn the ball over in midfield, they're looking up, and Murnan knew straight away.
And I think that and it's the reason why I think Kerry will always remain successful, no matter what way the rules have changed and the game has changed. Their movement patterns of their forwards are still very traditional. Their forwards still want to show for a kick pass. They still understand the time. You look at Kerry, how often a Kerry forward wins the ball coming on to a kick pass in an ocean of space, because his timing of his run is so good, and that is just bred into them from their knee high, and they've never gone away from that. And other counties don't do that. And we're back to, Derry, and you look at the underage teams that are still having success, but they're playing the same way that the senior team is playing. And it's, Derry teams don't kick the ball. And a lot of teams don't kick the ball. They don't use the ball in that way. And so I just think there's a lot been left on the table by teams in terms of goal opportunities, in terms of, you have Bobby McCaul at full forward. I love to see that ball. And it's not just out of desperation in the last 3 or 4 minutes. Now, obviously, Monaghan were chasing still at that point, but it wasn't, let's wait till there's 5 minutes to go and sure, Mayo have 12 men in the square, let's kick it in high, and then it's inevitable breaks the defender. And
before that,
and it's a really intelligent, it's a brilliant delivery from Mooney, the kick pass, but it's there for teams if they want it. And what fullback wants to be one-on-one with a kick pass and a forward who wants to take him on? Your two options as a full-back are to take a black yard or let him go. There's oftentimes you're seriously disadvantaged if that's the right ball in.
Yeah, we're just seeing so much even when that ball is kicked, how many times do you see the full forward coming out with the ball looking at a runner, as opposed to shuffling his hips and getting the ball in the half turn? Like, you seen was it Costello yesterday? We had a serious ball in the half turn. Young Lovett from Cavan's showed a serious. But teams are just coached now and sort of almost robotic. And
safety first.
Once that kick pass does come in, it's almost like it's a train drill. Here, where's the runners? And then they end up recycling through the phases, and it's attack over. Whereas the top teams are punishing, like we see in the flag grounds.
And I'd be surprised. Obviously, loads of conversations happen within changing rooms and round teams, and I'd be just surprised that forwards don't say to the full back, if I was coming at you, what would you least like me to do? What makes you most uncomfortable? Because I would imagine most full backs would say, face me up and take me on. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go away from goal. I want you to, if you pop it off to runner, in some ways I have my job done. And also, you're not always going to have that runner, so you end up just recycling the ball back out. But if you turn, as you say, if you get in the half turn, you're facing me and you come at me, I don't like that. So why do teams not take what defenders don't like and do it to them?
Test them first, and then it's the old Con O'Callaghan one, isn't it? Try out to see if the goal's there, and points the last resort. Steve Mooney's goal wasn't bad either.
Great finish. Great run, he played really well yesterday.
Yeah, he's really grown into it this year.
He has.
He's talented.
And it's, there are, just touching Monaghan, it's the first time, I had sort of been saying for a wee while that Monaghan over the 3 or 4 years there where the past team was coming to an end, I felt that one of their biggest problems was that not enough of the new blood had taken enough responsibility. They hadn't taken any ownership of the team yet, and they were sort of nearly still hanging back, waiting for Darren Hughes to do it, and waiting for Kieran Hughes, and waiting for Began, and and it feels like out of absolute necessity this year, because those players are no longer there, a lot of those young boys have really stood up, and I think they've done really well. And it's been
Who did you fancy yesterday? I actually went Monaghan with my 4 predictions on Saturday evening, and I just think it just deserves huge credit. Look, I've been obviously an opposition player for so long and probably didn't give them the credit that they deserved, but now I'm on the outside, I'm a huge fan of, like, huge admiration for them and how they got out of the flat grounds against Derry, what they done to Armagh, they able to claw their way back in, and like they nearly pulled it out of the fire again. Like Jack McKeown, I thought, can you remember his score, his first 1-pointer when he came on against Armagh from the tight angle?
Oh, brilliant finish, yeah.
He hits a better one in the town, up in the town end in Clonus yesterday, and Conor McCarthy, for me, like, he's probably one of my toughest opponents. Like, he destroyed me one night in the flat grounds. It might have been his first year where he went back to 7 and I was playing 10, and I just...
So you won the All-Star, was it?
Yeah, I couldn't go with him at all, and I got another rattle at him in 23, and I think he kicked 4 points that day too, and I came away with that. Now I butchered a couple of goal shots and stuff, but he's just oozing class. The fitter he gets, he showed glimpses. Sorry, he showed glimpses when he came in against Derry. I think he kicked the 2-pointer.
Yeah.
But then he went another level, and then he sort of, it looked like he was carrying an injury, and I thought maybe, it's going to take his toll on him, or we go to see him this week. But he was going for them gaps yesterday, that the McCarthy of old, you know, that sidestep, the power and the pace, and he's some player, but they deserve huge credit, and look, we talk about their luck earlier in the show, but hopefully they get a home draw. They deserve a bit of luck, and look, they're hard not to like at the minute, but they'll be a hard task for anyone.
Just on the couple of teenage sensations there yesterday, we've obviously spoken about Bobby McCaul, and devastating to see Cahair, the injury that he sustained like so soon after coming back. I don't know that we know exactly the extent of it, but it certainly
echoes of
look good. I feel it looks similar to the injury that he was out with for over a year previously, and you could see like Gabriel Bannigan was emotional talking about it, you know, like because he's put a lot of faith in him this year, wanted him back as soon as he was ready, and he's made such a huge impact. And then on the flip side of that, you have Kobe McDonald, who Mayo have, you know, for the remainder of this championship, whatever that may be. And you're talking about like two guys with serious X factor there, aren't you? Like, and it's class to watch. You know, you obviously Kobe kind of made his name as a Mayo senior when he burst on in the league game, but looking at him yesterday, there's just something magnetic about him.
Absolutely. Even the name feeds into it. Obviously, the connotations of Kobe and Kobe Bryant and all that. The name just feeds the sense that, you know, obviously David Clifford has a clothing line with McKeever Sports. And it just feels like if anybody else was going to have it, it's Kobe. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just has that already. He just has that. And then, you know, ability is one thing which he obviously has hanging out of him. But the catch at the end, coming taking that kick out and blasting at the high heaven, even the understanding at a very young age and having played no championship football, to know that just if I kick it as far away as I can, the game's over. You know, it doesn't matter what I do with it here as long as I don't go backwards. But he's electric. He wants to take men on. He's direct. He's obviously got the scoring ability. He's got goals in him.
It's very rare you get a player that size, that young, with that speed and the ability to finish. Like, we've seen his first goal. It was in Clonus, wasn't it?
It was, against Monaghan in the league.
It started outside the post, and look, he certainly lived up to the hype. What a way to make an entrance in the inter-county senior career. And look, it's been probably stop-start for him. I know he's still clipping away, but I think in the long term that's good for him. He's still learning.
He was never going to come in and just be, you know,
perfect.
Clifford's something else, you know, different.
Even he wasn't perfect at the beginning.
At the very beginning,
You know, it takes time. But it's, you know, it is a real pity for Mayo and for football that he's not going to be there beyond this year as things stand.
Do you think?
Well, what we know, like, is his mind made up. He's going as far as we know. Now, I'm sure
how long he's there for will be the question.
They'll always tend to take at least a couple of years out of it, you know, to try it, test it, see how far they can go, and then beyond year 2, the end of year 2, then you sort of vast majority you'll find out even that's a long time to lose him for the sport, because you don't want to lose players like that. But I think we talked about it at the time, like for him going is brilliant. Like, and I've never been in the camp of stop cutting ties with the AFL or things like that there, like, because these boys are all amateurs. If that's a life, that playing Gaelic football to a certain point can give you that life, then I think that's a great thing. Everything that people have put it, like, it's why players like that, like Aussie-bound, go out there and like people celebrate them and they love to see them playing out there, and they love to see, because you feel like you coach them and you contributed to this fella's life outside of just playing for his club or whatever. It's I'm sure a lot of those people feel ownership of that when they see him playing for Collingwood, and they see when they see Kobe playing out there next year, and it's just a pity. Like, we'd love to have him here.
But we'll get him back at some stage, you know what I mean? Like, it was
maybe. And look, Mayo have been hammered by it. Derry got hammered by it for a while, but obviously, like, if Aussie-bound was at home and Kobe was staying home, that would make some difference to Mayo's credentials as a team. Looking at winning All Ireland. So and yes, no, I did fancy Mayo. I fancied Louth to beat Dublin. I fancied Cavan to actually tweeted this all before anything happened. So this is Cavan to give Westmeath their fill. The one that got badly wrong was Derry taking Armagh to extra time.
I went Armagh, Westmeath. I changed my mind. I was Louth all week until Con was confirmed that he was starting, and I just thought, if he plays 60-65 minutes, he's going to have that what do you call it, X factor, whatever, to get them over the line, and everybody else go to row in behind. But wasn't the case. And Louth ended 1957. They were excellent too, but
1973.
73. But
Neil was 5.
57 was 5.
Back to the Dublin thing. Like, we like to exaggerate, their demise too. Obviously, they're in decline, but they were beat by a good side. That was a good live side yesterday.
Well, funny, it's one thing Cahair and I were talking about, and for years we were told about the blue wave, and how much the GAA needed a strong Dublin, and then we got this kind of monster that went out of control for a decade, and everybody was going, Jesus, like, what are we going to do? Split Dublin in 3 or 2 and 3, whatever. And then you look at it now, and you look at the strength of Leinster, and where even Dublin sitting at, I don't know. You could argue that. You could argue that they're third or fourth. Which 6 or 7 years ago would have been unthinkable. But like, surely that's better. And now the flip side of that, of course, like, there's 16,000 people there in Croke Park yesterday, which is not great. But even when Dublin were at their peak, the interest tailed off pretty quickly. Really, like, by the time they were winning 4 or 5 in a row, like, there wasn't that huge crowd. But like, surely it's better to have like what we have now, which is that competitiveness all around. Like, the strength of Westmeath, Louth, Meath.
I think the provincials as a whole, we've got 3 competitive provinces. We thought Kerry were going to get a bit of a game this year. Obviously not. Cork were disappointing in that final, but I'm all for it. It'll be interesting now to see if Westmeath can back that up, or are they going to drop back, maybe in the 3rd or 4th spot. Dublin's going to be always knocking on the door. It'll depend what happens, maybe the more senior players this year. I was looking at their bench yesterday, they haven't got a squad there. I'm not too sure how many players have to come back. They got Lee Gannon back, which is a plus. Con's obviously back from injury. That'll help them going forward. The form of Costello, I think he's kicked 26 points in 3 games. Paddy Small, Bugler kicked another 4. They've still got the quality. I think the question marks around their defence. 4 goals obviously speaks for itself. I think they've maybe got to find they've got a player in maybe Charlie McMorrow. He's doing a lot of damage on the scoreboard. He has done the last 2 or 3 games. He's going to be tested defensively, going forward, so he'll be worth keeping an eye on. But the difference yesterday was the bench. I think Louth got not 6. Burns and Matthews potentially got the 6 points between them. Don't think Dublin got any return. So,
and isn't that such a contrast? Like for years, the Dublin, that was their thing. The bench press,
Yeah.
coming with all stars off it, like, and that was what they could. But it's just the Leinster's been really good to watch in the last 2 years. But just how high is the standard? How good are the teams? How good are the best 2 or 3 teams in it?
Is it Dublin coming back to the pack, or is it the pack coming? You know, it's a bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah, like Louth won Leinster last year and then went on and beat me down in the group stage. Beat me Monaghan in the group stage, weren't they? And
They were.
and well beaten by Donegal up in Balbafay.
Like,
so
you would say maybe if you went over to Connacht there, it's at a higher level.
Absolutely.
Because if you take Mayo, Roscommon and Galway and you threw them in there,
Yeah.
you'd fancy them to come out of Leinster, wouldn't
absolutely.
you? Yeah.
If those 3 were in Leinster, there's a good chance they'd be the strongest 3 in Leinster.
Yeah.
So like that.
So there is maybe a level
Yeah,
to that.
yeah, and no, but it's still a good thing that for football as a whole that Dublin have come down the hill a bit, and the Kerry injuries at the way they are at the minute, and the fact
no way you're going to talk about Dublin Kerry here.
the fact that they look a bit more human again, but look, they looked human for a bit of the early season last year, and then looked very anything but human.
Beware of the Meath.
Absolutely,
the ghosts of Meath
there's
last
nobody.
year.
I think everybody's burned by that.
Yeah.
Nobody is right in Kerry in any shape or form off. But it's just great for football that we're now in summers where we don't know who's going to win the All Ireland. I think it's so wide open, and you're talking about the crowds going to games like Dublin and Leinster finals were still attracting 35,000-40,000, but it was almost all Dublin fans. The opposition teams weren't even travelling because they had no belief or hope that they were going to win a Leinster. They were just going to get hockey and beat by 15 points. And what was that for? What did that? So this thing of the GAA needs a strong Dublin. I don't know that it does.
What was the crowd just now?
16.
16.
No, but how much?
Vast majority Louth.
Louth, wasn't
Looked
it?
all
Like,
red to me, and the hill was obviously blue, but the Cusack was red on TV. So I don't think it needs a strong Dublin. I think it needs a competitive Dublin. It does need Dublin running the show, and it needs that. Because Kerry aren't going to win every All Ireland, and they're going to come. What they haven't done. They haven't done back-to-back since... haven't done back-to-back in a long time.
Kerry?
Must
be the Naughties, was it? Or did they do
Before it? They didn't do back-to-back in the Naughties. Did they? No. 04, 06, 09. Yeah. I can't remember. Was it the 80s? Mid-80s?
Yeah.
I think since Kerry did back-to-back. Which, so they're not going to win every All-Ireland. And as long as that happens, you have a really... And where we're at the minute, we have Armagh, we have Donegal, we have Galway, we have... loads of teams who can push up on that and get their All Ireland. We're in something resembling an early 90s phase here, which was
here's hoping,
and the Naughties as well. Where teams could win All Ireland. Oh well, you can hope for another way, Neil. But no, look, I think it's a good thing. You don't want it to fall away in Dublin completely. You don't want them to be uncompetitive or not near All Irelands, but you don't want them running the show either.
Yeah. Okay, look, I'm mindful of the clock here. I know a couple of other wee things we wanted to talk about, but we're going to have plenty of time to flesh these things out as the weeks go on. Anyway.
Summer's long.
And sure, it was a big draw.
Summer's over. We had a week of sun last week and the summer's over.
Exactly. Cahair, thanks very much. Stefan, thank you for coming in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much, as always, to our sponsors, Find Insurance NI, your local commercial insurance broker. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get or watch your podcasts, and we will be back next week for more.